Hey gals and guys, I made a video recently dealing with television shows that were reimagined into some pretty terrible movies. This time out I want to counterbalance that video with this video on classic television shows that I think made awesome, or at least entertaining movies in a variety of ways for different films, and I'll explain as I go. Any movies with sequels, I'll be grouping those together. I was very unkind to the movie spotlighted in the other video. I'll be much kinder in this video. It's a kinder, gentler Chris for this video. Here are 10 television shows that turned into some pretty good motion picture remakes, of course in my opinion, and their sequels. I watched the first Equalizer film a few years ago and did not particularly like it. I was an 80s kid, and so as an 80s kid I grew up with the original television show. I was unflexible when I first saw it. Robert McCall was an old crusty English white dude. He wasn't a tall black guy. The original series stars British actor Edward Woodward as Robert McCall, a former covert operations officer of an unnamed U.S. government intelligence organization, which was often referred to simply as the agency or the company, who tries to atone for his past by offering, usually free of charge, his services as a troubleshooter, a protector, and an investigator.
Fold. Wait. Wait a minute. What? Fold. Resign. I am your past, Mr. Wingate. I've come back to haunt you.
People in need found him through a newspaper classified ad. Got a problem? Odds against you? Call the Equalizer, 212-555-4200. Now, I love Denzel Washington. In some cases, I don't mind race swaps. In some cases, I do. Take Michael Duncan Clark from the Daredevil movie when he played the Kingpin. I really didn't mind that. I thought Michael Duncan Clark was an excellent choice. I don't know. For the Equalizer, like I said, it was Edward Woodward. He's an old, crusty English white dude. That was the character. But let me say, after watching all three movies again, Denzel Washington did grow on me. Now, Man on Fire is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. He just wasn't the character of the Equalizer. He wasn't Robert McCall. He was Denzel Washington, and Denzel Washington is not a character actor. He plays the same person in every single role he's in. Okay, maybe the exception was The Mighty Quinn. So I skipped the second Denzel Washington Equalizer film, and then years later decided to watch the most recent film of the So Far trilogy, which was the third film, and I loved it. I thought it was absolutely spectacular. I loved it so much I went back and watched the first film again and the second, and I changed my mind, and I do love them all as well. Denzel Washington still isn't what I grew up with, and that will always be true. I don't really see him embodying the Robert McCall character, but I put all that aside this time out and based this series as just an action trilogy without the baggage of my childhood. I really, really love these films. They were great action movies. Now, I still haven't gathered up the gumption to watch the Queen Latifah version yet. Perhaps someday I'll work up the courage to check it out. I'll still have that old bias from the 80s, that child bias of Edward Woodward. If you never had the opportunity to watch the original show, I would encourage you to do so. I feel the show was ahead of its time, and I really enjoyed visiting Denzel Washington Equalizer films again. They're good films on their own. They didn't necessarily need to be called the Equalizer, but they are, and I just have to deal with that. I would check this trilogy out. That's my opinion. It's pretty awesome. The A-Team from 2010. Now, I moved this movie from the terrible TV to movies pile to the awesome TV to movies pile. You know what? This movie really isn't terrible. That's why I'm watching these all again, to make sure my first reaction was the right reaction. There really isn't anything wrong with it as far as being a silly action movie is concerned. It's pretty entertaining. It's too bad they didn't get another shot at it to see what they could do now that they were officially wanted and the A-Team. The movie didn't do well enough at the box office to garner a sequel. Now, the A-Team is a 2010 American action comedy film based on the 1980s television series of the same name created by Frank Lupo and Stephen J. Cannell. The old series wasn't all that great. The movie's probably better than the old series in my opinion. The film stars Liam Neeson, Bradley Cooper, Jessica Biel, Quentin Jackson, Sharlto Copley, and Patrick Wilson. And the film tells that story of those special forces team who, imprisoned for a crime they did not commit, escape and sets out to clear their names. The film had been in development since the mid-1990s, having gone through many writers and story ideas and being put on hold many times. Neeson, Cooper, and the rest of the cast joined in the summer of 2009, and filming took place around Canada later that year. The film was theatrically released on June 11th, 2010 by 20th Century Fox. It received mixed reviews from critics who praised the cast and action sequences, but criticized the script, and I can absolutely agree with that. Now, a sequel was initially anticipated, but after the film underperformed at the box office, grossing $177 million worldwide against its $110 million budget, plans were scrapped. Now, how movies like this take years to get off the ground is mind-boggling, but again, I'm not in the Hollywood movie system. I mean, this movie wasn't written that well that it takes 10 years to write a freaking movie. The stories are not complex. Why does it take a decade to come up with either? I would recommend this movie. It sticks very close to the original series, even incorporating BA's fear of flying. It's no masterpiece. None of these are real masterpieces. It has a great cast and some good action. I take that back, actually. There's 2 masterpieces in this list. Speaking of not masterpieces, but silly movie. The Brady Bunch duology. The Brady Bunch movie, a 1995 American comedy film that parodies the 1969 to 1974 television series, The Brady Bunch. The film was directed by the great Betty Thomas and stars Shelley Long, Gary Cole, and Michael McKean. It also features cameo from Davy Jones, Mickey DeLenz, Peter Tork, RuPaul, and some of the original cast of The Brady Bunch in new roles. Why RuPaul, of all people? Who knows? The film is an alternate retroactive continuity of the Brady Bunch storylines and lore, based on the Kitschy Camp parody musical Live Brady Bunch tour in the early 1990s. The film places the original sitcom characters with their 1970s fashion sense and sitcom family morality into a contemporary 1990s setting. Mike Brady works as a successful architect in Los Angeles. Due to failure to pay property tax, his family's home is at risk of repossession. Mike has to contend with his con man neighbor Larry Dittmeyer, who tries to sabotage the Brady's effort to save their home. I'm not sure what people not familiar with the original series will get out of this. A lot of the jokes are callbacks to the original series. Premise is this family is still living in the 1970s while the world around them lives in the present time, or at least when the movie was made back in the 90s. And that's where much of the humor comes from. You have Mike Brady's stupid speeches, Jan's exaggerated dislike for her sister, the groovy language of the time in a far-out way. The Brady Bunch as a show from the 70s was always stupid. Even when I watched it as a kid, I thought it was stupid. It also had a lot of charm. The characters are likable, and the plots were always extremely tame. And with the lack of streaming and 9 million channels we have today, back then, it was one of the few things on television that was at least enjoyable. The Brady Bunch movie was released in the United States on February 17th of 1995 and grossed $54 million.
You're telling me there's some kind of wire you plug into your TV set that gives you 50 channels? Cable.
A sequel titled A Very Brady Sequel was released on August 23rd of 1996, and a television film titled The Brady Bunch in the White House was aired on November 29th of 2002, a film I had no idea existed, and I tried to watch a little of it, and it's terrible. Only Gary Cole and Shelley Long reprise their roles, everyone else is recasted, including Alice. It's terrible. It doesn't have the original creative staff, and it's just blah. But I like the duology. I like those 2 movies. They're silly and dumb and corny, and they poke good fun at the original series. They crack me up even today. I mean, not gut laughs, but, my inner child is laughing inside. I grew up in that era, so I probably appreciate these more for making fun of the silly television shows that were on at the time. I think these films can be enjoyed by any generation. They're humorous on their own. Check them out if you haven't already. I love them, so that means so will you. I can't back that up. Alright, I mentioned masterpieces, and there are 2 masterpieces among this list. I believe The Fugitive is one of them.
Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. Our fugitive has been on the run for 90 minutes. Average foot speed over uneven ground, barring injury, is 4 miles an hour. That gives us a radius of 6 miles. What I want out of each and every one of you is a hard target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, or doghouse in that area. Your fugitive's name is Dr. Richard Kimball.
The Fugitive is a 1993 American action thriller film directed by Andrew Davis based on the 1960s television series of the same name, which itself is loosely inspired from the trial of Sam Shepard. And the film stars Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones, Sella Ward, Joe Pantoliano, Andrea Katsoulas, and Jerome Crabb. And if I mispronounce those names, I apologize. After being framed for the murder of his wife and sentenced to death, vascular surgeon Dr. Richard Kimball escapes from custody following a bus crash. Kimball sets out to to find the real killer and clear his name while being hunted by the police and a team of U.S. Marshals led by Deputy Samuel Gerard. The original show from the 1960s starring David Janssen as Kimball was really good. I've seen a few episodes. It was more of a procedural where the character had a new storyline every week.
A QM production. Starring David Janssen as Dr. Richard Kimball, an innocent victim of blind justice, falsely convicted for the murder of his wife, reprieved by fate when a train wreck freed him en route to the death house.
The plotline plays just like the Harrison Ford movie. This series lasted 4 seasons and had a satisfactory conclusion. Just like the movie, the actor Jansen and the character Kimball was searching for the one-armed man to clear his name due to the death of his wife. What was rare for the time is that actions from previous episodes carried over to the next episode and the next season. There was a lot of contained stories throughout the series, but there was a satisfactory conclusion that concluded the series, which doesn't usually happen very often. Initially, the show leaves the exact motive of the one-armed man unclear, as it focuses more on Richard Kimball's attempts to track him down while being pursued by law enforcement. As the series progresses, it is eventually revealed that the one-armed man, Fred Johnson, was involved in criminal activities, and Helen Kimball's murder was not premeditated, but a tragic consequence of a robbery gone wrong. The one-armed man had broken into Kimball's home to steal items, and during the robbery, Helen Kimball unexpectedly confronted him. In a panic, Johnson killed her to avoid being caught. This critical detail supports Richard Kimball's long-held claim that he did not kill his wife and sets the stage for the series final, where Kimball confronts the one-armed man and finally clears his name. The movie The Fugitive premiered in Westwood, California on July 29th of 1993 and was released in the United States on August 6th of 1993. It was a critical and commercial success, spending 6 weeks as the #1 film in the United States and grossing nearly $370 million worldwide against a $44 million budget. It was the 3rd highest grossing film in 1993 worldwide.
The Oscar goes to Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive.
It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Tommy Lee Jones won for Best Supporting Actor. It was followed by the 1998 film U.S. Marshals, in which Jones reprised his role as Deputy Marshal Sam Gerard, along with some others of his earlier Marshals team. This time out, Wesley Snipes was The Fugitive. The original movie The Fugitive was much better, but I really liked U.S. Marshals. Tommy Lee Jones is the shit.
You want to kill Sheridan, you go ahead, you do it. But you remember this, you forget every goddamn thing you ever taught me about this job. The rules, the regulations, the code. You do this, Sam, and it's all about you. It's not about Newman anymore, it's about you. The great Sam Gerard.
Yes, I am.
And you always have to win.
Yes, I do.
I could watch him in anything, even if it's super terrible. U.S. Marshals was a good movie in my eyes. I would recommend it. Watching Tommy Lee Jones always grumbling and chewing up his lines is always a treat. I love the guy as an actor. He's awesome. I like both films. Like I said, The Fugitive is much better and I believe a classic. And U.S. Marshals is okay. It's not terrible. Another masterpiece in this list is The Untouchables. I think is a classic and a masterpiece from Brian De Palma. Now, the original TV series The Untouchable is an American crime drama produced by Desilu Productions that ran from 1959 to 1963 on the ABC television network. It was based on the memoir of the same name by Elliot Ness and Oscar Fraley. It fictionalizes the experience of Ness as a prohibition agent fighting crime in Chicago in the 1930s with the help of a special team of agents handpicked for their courage, moral character, and incorruptibility, nicknamed The Untouchables, of course. The book was later made into a celebrated film in 1987 and a second, less successful TV series in 1993, which I vaguely remember. In the theater, The Untouchables is a 1987 American crime film directed by Brian De Palma and stars Kevin Costner, Charles Martin Smith, Andy Garcia, Robert De Niro, and Sean Connery. Set in Chicago in the 1930s, the film follows Elliot Ness as he forms the Untouchable team to bring Al Capone to justice during Prohibition. And again, the screenplay is loosely based on the Ness and Oscar Fraley's 1957 book, The Untouchables, and the real-life events it was based on, though most of its plot is fictionalized. You know, Hollywood always takes those creative liberties. The Untouchables premiered on June 2nd of 1987 in New York City and went into general release on June 3rd of 1987 in the United States. The film grossed $106.2 million worldwide and received generally positive reviews from critics. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Connery won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, as well as the Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor and Motion Picture.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, and a few enemies. I don't think there's anyone aware, or unaware rather, in Hollywood or the rest of the world tonight that this is the 60th anniversary of these Academy Awards. And I just realized myself the other day that my first one and only attendance was 30 years ago. If such a thing as a wish accompanied this award, mine would be that we ended the writer's strike. And I thank you all sincerely.
I've seen this movie at least 24 times. In my eyes, the film is a classic and timeless. It doesn't seem like it's aged at all. The standout actor in The Untouchables is the late, great Sean Connery. Robert De Niro is a close second. Just like Tommy Lee Jones, I could watch Sean Connery even in a terrible movie and still enjoy his performance.
If you open the ball on these people, Mr. Nash, you must be prepared to go all the way. Because they won't give up the fight until one of you is dead.
I want to get Capone. I don't know how to get him.
Want to get Capone? Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. That's how you get Capone.
I've never seen the original television series, so I can't comment on that. I vaguely saw the 1993 one. I think I saw a couple episodes. It was all right. And considering the original television series and the movie are based on the same source material, I can only assume they're similar in some ways, but we all know how Hollywood takes those creative freedoms, as I mentioned. This movie could only be true in historical names alone. This movie is outstanding. Every scene has meaning and is well crafted. I don't have enough praise for this movie, although not in my personal top 10 of movies of all time. It has to be in there somewhere in my top 50. I recommend this film the most out of the 10 I'm going to cover in this video. A very must-see, a very great movie, much praise, love, applause, applause, encore, encore. It's good, watch it. The Addams Family is a 1991 American supernatural black comedy film based on the characters from the cartoon created by cartoonist Charles Addams in the 1964 television series produced by David Levy, directed by former cinematographer Barry Sonnenfeld. In his feature directorial debut, the film stars Angelica Houston, who was nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance as Morticia Addams, the late great Raul Julia as Gomez Addams, and Christopher Lloyd as Fester Addams. The film focuses on a bizarre, weird, aristocratic family who reconnect with someone whom they believe to have been a long-lost relative, Gomez's brother, Fester Addams. If I had one thing I didn't like about this movie was that Christopher Lloyd was totally miscast as Fester. Now, I love Christopher Lloyd. Jim Ignatowski is a classic from Taxi. Classic character.
My God, I know her. She's dyed her hair, but that's her.
Classic character. I just don't think he was good as Fester. And I'm basing this on the original television show. I think everyone else was cast perfectly and encompasses all the characters' portrayals on the original show. I also thought that about Star Trek 3 with Christopher Lloyd. I also felt that way that he was miscast as a Klingon. If you watch the original Addams Family cartoon and television show, Fester was such a different character than portrayed by Christopher Lloyd. Let me know if you agree with that or not. Again, I love Christopher Lloyd. I didn't see him as the character, that's all. The film was noted for its turbulent production, originally developed at Orion. The film went $5 million over budget due to constant rewrites throughout shooting, health problems of people involved in the filming, and an overall stressful filming for Sonnenfeld himself, which caused multiple delays. The rise in production costs from the film's $25 million budget to $30 million led Orion financially struggling and fearful of another big budget flop. The film was commercially successful, making back almost 7 times its production cost, and was followed by a sequel, Addams Family Values. I haven't seen the original Addams Family since I went to the theater to see it 100 years ago, it seems. All I remember is that I liked it. Now watching it some 30 years later, it's like catching up with an old friend. I remember a lot about the film now that I see it. I always enjoyed the original series, and this film drew beautifully from it. Addams Family Values I'd seen once on cable a long time ago. The only part I remember is Wednesday by Ritchie. Even today, those scenes still crack me up. Overall, the Addams Family and the Addams Family Values have aged gracefully. Both movies are humorous humorous. Not, laugh out loud humorous, but that internal guy inside me laughing. At no time did I laugh out loud, but there was a smile on my face a few times. Both films still have charm. I had a good time revisiting them. And the summer camp scenes in the sequel made that movie. They're awesome. If it was just the movie with the summer camp, it would be awesome. Maverick is a 1994 American Western comedy film directed by Richard Donner, written by William Goldman, and starring Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner, based on the 1957 to 1962 television series of the same name created by Roy Huggins, and originally starring James Garner. The film stars Gibson as Brett Maverick, a card player and con artist who collects money in order to enter a high-stakes poker game. He is joined in his adventure by Annabelle Bransford, another con artist, and Marshall Zane Cooper, a lawman. The supporting cast features Graham Greene, James Coburn, Alfred Molino, and many cameo appearances by Western film actors, country music stars, and other actors. Maverick was filmed from August to December in 1993, released theatrically by Warner Brothers on May 20th of 1994. The film was both a critical and commercial success, having grossed over $183 million worldwide. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Costume Design. Another one I watched in the theater a very long time ago. It reunites Mel Gibson and Richard Donner from the Lethal Weapon movies. We even have a little cameo by Danny Glover with the familiar musical cue in the background. These were the days before Mel got a bit drunk and rattled his intoxicated mouth that included various racial slurs. Mel did something stupid. Mel got blacklisted very quickly. I think it was blown way out of proportion. We all do and say really stupid fucking things. Gibson has made a mild comeback since including the anticipation of him taking over for the late Richard Donner and directing Lethal Weapon 5. Hey, why not? Beverly Hills Cop Axel F was pretty damn good. Why not Lethal Weapon 5? I hope it comes to fruition. I hope it comes out. I'd be interested to see it. Maverick is a good movie and a good remake of the original series. I've seen some episodes of the original series, and it's really good. I encourage you all to give it a watch, both the movie and some of the episodes of the original series. Hey, I'm not bluffing on this one. It's a poker joke. Get it? I'm not sure if a lot of people are going to agree with this or not, but anyways, The Flintstones is a 1994 American family comedy film directed by Brian Levant, based on the 1960 to 1966 animated television series of the same name by Hanna-Barbera, and that was a primetime series. I think the next primetime series that really made it big was The Simpsons. Anyways, the film stars John Goodman as Fred Flintstone, Rick Moranis as Barney Rubble, Elizabeth Perkins as Wilma Flintstone, and Rosie O'Donnell as Betty Rubble, along with Kyle MacLachlan as Cliff Vandercave, a villainous executive vice president of Fred's company. The great, luscious, sexy, beautiful Halle Berry as Sharon Stone. not the other Sharon Stone, the character is Sharon Stone. It's Cliff's seductive secretary, and then there's Elizabeth Taylor in her final theatrical film appearance as Pearl Slaghoople, Wilma's mother. The B-52s performed their version of the cartoon's theme song, playing caveman versions of themselves as the B-52s. That's like Ray Paul in the other movie. Why the B-52s? Who knows? They were popular back in the 80s and 90s, I suppose. The film, shot in California, was theatrically released on May 27th, 1994. It received mostly negative reviews from critics, but was a box office success, grossing almost $342 million worldwide against a $46 million budget. A prequel titled The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas was released in 2000. I think I tried to watch that a long time ago, and I think I turned it off. It wasn't very good. I think the film was cast beautifully beyond Rosie O'Donnell. It's probably a big bias because I can't stand Rosie O'Donnell, and Betty Rubble is not a chubby talk show host. It's a minor bitch. Perhaps Sandra Bullock or Winona Ryder would have been better choice. I can't stand Rosie O'Donnell. I don't like her as Betty Rubble. It's a personal thing. The movie is pretty silly. What saves the script is the fact it's not much different than the old cartoon show. The movie overall is dumb. If it was just the movie, it's dumb fun. The production design is the star of this movie. It is stocked to the rim the entire film. There's always something new to look at, and it's pretty incredible. I could just look at the sets and the costumes and all the gadgetry and just watch that for 2 hours and not even worry about a story. The story is secondary to me. I just love the look and the feel of the movie. It's just so much like the original cartoon. I just loved it. I love it for that, and the story's okay. I obviously recommend it. Twilight Zone, the movie, is a 1983 American sci-fi horror anthology film produced by Steven Spielberg and John Landis, based on Rod Serling's 1959 to 1964 television series of the same name. The film features 4 stories, directed by Landis, Spielberg, Joe Dante, and George Miller. Landis' segment is an original story created for the film, where the segments by Spielberg, Dante, Miller are remakes of episodes from the original series. The film's cast includes Dan Aykroyd, Albert Brooks, Scatman Crothers, John Lithgow, Vic Morrow, and Kathleen Quinlan. Original series cast member Burgess Meredith, Patricia Barry, Peter Bracco, Murray Matheson, Kevin McCarthy, Bill Mumy, and William Scullert also appear in the film, with Meredith assuming Serling's role as narrator. The film's production achieved notoriety when Morrow and 2 illegally hired child actors were killed in a helicopter crash during the filming of Landis' segment. The deaths led to several years of legal action, although no individuals were found to be criminally liable. New procedures and safety standards were imposed in the filmmaking industry. Upon release, the film received mixed reviews, with praise directed at Dante and Miller's segments, but criticism towards the segments by Landis and Spielberg. Despite the controversy and mixed reception, it was a commercial success, grossing $42 million on a $10 million budget. I spent many late nights watching double episodes of the original Twilight Zone. It's still pertinent and relevant today. Not every single story, but any of them can fit into today's issues and sensibilities. Dare I say, the Twilight television series is timeless? I do dare to say that, and I'm saying it. See, I just said it just now. The first story involves a bigot and racist who travels to the past during Nazi Germany and the Ku Klux Klan lynching in Vietnam. In every case, this racist is now seen as the minority. He's seen as a Jew, a black man, and a Vietnamese. He becomes the very people he discriminated against. The second story is my favorite, and it has Steven Spielberg written all over it. This was kind of a precursor to his Amazing Stories show that came soon after. I'll assume being part of the Twilight Zone, the anthology movie, gave Spielberg the tickle to make the Amazing Stories. The third story to me is the weakest, about some boy who controls the world around him, and the only thing he wants is to be loved and wanted. I mean, don't we all? The boy's problem is he tries to be loved by force and is only feared until a stranger comes a-callin' and cares for him unconditionally. The story is okay. The visuals are pretty interesting. Kathleen Quinlan I could watch for 2 hours. She's beautiful and hot. The fourth is a remake of the very famous Twilight Zone episode starring William Shatner, with a gremlin or troll-like creature, or whatever the hell it's supposed to be, on the wing of a jetliner tearing up the engines. In the episode, only William Shatner sees this creature, and the rest of the crew and passengers thinks he's nuts, and Shatner declines into nutdom during the episode. In the movie, Shatner's role is played by John Lithgow, and holy shit, does he act the fuck out of this story. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic acting by Mr. John Lithgow. Twilight Zone the movie is a good watch, and opened the door for other anthology movies that came after. Some good, and some are not so good. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I just finished up watching this actually before I did this narration. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a 2015 spy film directed by Guy Ritchie and written by Ritchie and Lionel Wingram. It is based on the 1964 MGM television series of the same name, which was created by Norman Felton and Sam Rolfe. The film stars Henry Cavill, Armie Hammer, Alicia Vikander, Elizabeth Debicki, and Hugh Grant. The film was produced by Rat Pack Dune Entertainment and Davis Entertainment, while Turner Entertainment Company, the original TV series current holder, was also involved. So this was the only movie in this video that I hadn't seen. I didn't know what to expect and didn't really have any expectations. I just needed to know if it went on the naughty list or the nice list. I've never seen the television show, and as a bit of trivia, the uncle in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., UNCLE stands for United Network Command for law enforcement, and obviously it's a fictional secret international intelligence agency. So why this movie must be called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is beyond me. I suppose it has to be called something. Does anyone really remember this show? Is it such a loved IP that people are going to care if it's called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or Lethal Die Hard or Spy and the Guy or anything else? I just find it bizarre that Hollywood felt the need to make a movie based on such an obscure show that hardly anyone remembers. This movie's just a regular action film. It could have been called anything. In 1993, John Davis obtained the rights for a film adaptation based on the original series. However, the film fell into development limbo due to multiple script rewrites. Over the years, Matthew Vaughn, David Dobkin, and Steven Soderbergh were optioned for directing until Ritchie signed on in March of 2013. The film premiered at Barcelona on August 2nd of 2015 and was released on August 14th, 2015 by Warner Brothers. It received mixed reviews from critics and was a box office bomb, grossing only $110 million worldwide on a $75 million budget. Rolling Stone listed this movie 50th on the best action movies of all time. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a good action film. It's yet another buddy action movie. Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer play great off each other as rivals and partners. Armie Hammer was supposed to play Batman in the proposed 2007 Justice League movie. The film was cast and it was in pre-production. It just never went anywhere. But now in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., we have Superman and Batman working together. Yeah, I know, that was a stretch. Director Guy Ritchie can coordinate the shit out of action sequences. If it was him responsible for them or the part of his team, they all look awesome. I now forgive him for Aladdin. He must have had a moment of weakness or got paid a shitload of money, one or the other, but I forgive you, Guy Ritchie, I forgive you. The chase for the final at the end was crazy insane. I loved it. It was simple. It wasn't as dumb as, say, Fast and Furious. It actually was grounded in somewhat of reality, and that made it far better than any of the Fast and the Furious stupid car chases that are just insane. This is a fun and stupid action movie with jokes that are hit or miss. It's very entertaining, and that's why it made it onto this list. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And with that, gals and guys, we have completed another video. There's a lot more movies I want to cover in the future. Unfortunately, most of the television to movie remakes are pretty terrible. I highly doubt I'm going to find 10 more good ones. I'll be back to being negative in the next video. Don't you worry. I also want to do cartoons that were turned into live action movies and reverse these videos of movies made into television shows. All those will be coming in the near future. For now, I wish to tell you all how much I appreciate you. Please subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you feel there. Please share and hit that bell for updates, and I will catch you later. Peace out. Bye.